Welcome everyone to our ninth day of our ninth session of Finding Fitness: Foundations of Strength and Conditioning. I'm excited to be back again for another day. We've got a little Christmas theme going on today, and our usual workout spot is our Christmas tree. So um, I'll have to be I'll be off to the side a little bit. But anyways, as we've gone through this course, we've been talking um, a lot about different. Thank you, Chris. We've been talking a lot about different things that I feel are important, and we've gone through and we've discussed a big variety of different topics that can be conducive to improving your health and well-being, and improving your strength and performance. Your relationship with your workouts, and making sure that you have the right kind of some of the good fundamental and foundational tools to make sure that you're exercising in a way that is productive and contributing uh, positively to your life. So one of the very first things that we talked about was continuing education. So as we're getting close to wrapping this up, I thought it'd be really good, to instead of always just kind of taking, hearing my opinion and talking about the things that I believe are really important, it's good to kind of learn from a variety of different sources. So today's lesson, we're going to focus on, I'm going to give you a few resources for kind of that continuing education component before we get into the workout. So, um, training is is a skill, and like any skill, gaining a greater understanding of what you do or what you're doing will increase your ability to perform that skill and apply it in a more productive manner. So again, since I can't do these sessions forever, I thought it'd be valuable to leave anyone watching with some good resources to excuse me, continue on moving forward and continue on learning about strength and conditioning, about your health and wellness. So I like to preface this by saying that while I appreciate the content created by these individuals, and I have read and learned a lot from these books that I'm going to recommend. Their, these their content and this stuff is belongs completely to them and is of their opinion, and it's not the end all be all. It's just something that some different things that I find valuable that you might be able to learn from as you go on. So that being said, um, I've got a few Instagram accounts here that I think are really great to follow. It can teach you some really great things about training, and then some strength and conditioning and health and wellness books, like my top 5 strength and conditioning and health and wellness books that I think really kind of contribute something positive to the dialogue about strength and conditioning. So um, this document's also made available into a Google Drive file that Canador has access to. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure how that's shared right now, but you should be able to find it somewhere. But if you're here and you're listening, I'll try and spell these things out nicely for you so that you don't have to go looking for them. So the first Instagram account that I really, really like, it's called The Physio Fix. So at The Physio Fix. Um, this wonderful lady named Dr. Stacy um, teaches a lot about rehabilitation, mobility, flexibility, a lot of body weight exercises, and she breaks down anatomy into really simple terms to understand. Like I've really, really learned a lot from her, just how to target very small and specific areas, kind of work through some different things that kind of common issues that come up. She talks about topics like core stability, shoulder impingements, knee valgus, like when your knees kind of cave in when you're squatting, and provide some very practical solutions and applications for that. That being said, excuse me. That being said, if you do have an injury or something, it's great to see, get personalized and individualized help for that. So this isn't a replacement of that. It's just a good place to learn some things from someone who's absolutely qualified and does a really good job of simplifying those types of things. The next one, at Eric Cressy, so ERIC CRESSEY. Incredibly knowledgeable in the world of sports performance, and he posts some really great anatomy related information as well, and great exercises for improving strength, speed, power, and stability, and as well as conditioning. And something that I've talked about a little bit as we've gone through these sessions is that um, a lot of the great ways to train that improve athletic performance are really great for improving, your health and wellness. And a lot of those kind of indicators or a lot of those things that kind of will be valuable in your day-to-day life, like strength is such a useful endeavor in terms of your exercise routine, because it's really great for your long-term health. It's good for keeping your muscles and your joints healthy and in good positions. So like training like an athlete has a lot of benefits and carryover for your average gym trainee who doesn't, maybe not training for a sport or anything, but training in that manner is still very valuable. Excuse me, I got something in my throat. The third one is at Just Lift Inc. So JUSTLIFTINC. It's more of a local account. So they're based out in Ottawa. Greg Chin and Julia Ryan. They're very wonderful and empathetic weightlifting coaches. So they coach the sport of Olympic weightlifting. They not only teach things in a practical and productive manner, but they really address the human element of training as well. Something that I've talked at length about through these sessions. Training isn't just about going in the gym and working out. It has a lot of, to do with what else is going on in your life. And I think they really do a good job of blending the idea of, improving at the skills of, barbell training and weightlifting, but also addressing the fact that at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and that this isn't the only thing, going on in your life. So Julia has a PhD in psychology, and Greg's an excellent weightlifting coach. And together they have a lot of really great content that I really, really enjoy getting the chance to experience. So those are, and I took the time to make sure that I recommended, I only did 3 recommendations because these 3 accounts really, really do an excellent job. And I could almost guarantee that I would agree or feel strongly similar to most of the things I would say. So I could have made a big long list, but I wanted to go nice and succinct and say these ones I could, they will have some benefit for you for your strength and conditioning and health and wellness kind of pursuits. So now moving on to my top 5 strength and conditioning and health and wellness books. So the first 3 have to do with programming and training and performance, and the last 2 have more to do with nutrition and wellness. So um, Practical Programming for Strength Training by Mark Ripto, also written by Lon Kilgore. Really great book talking about very simple foundational concepts of barbell training and how to get stronger. Laid out very simply, very easy to follow along, and has actual programming in there that you can kind of get started on. So I think it's a really good starting point, and lots of people who have gotten into strength training have kind of started from this point. Um, and yeah, I think that is something that could be valuable for someone just kind of getting going and gaining a little bit of an understanding of the background and the science behind increasing your strength and getting stronger. The next one, a little bit more technical and science based, but still very interesting. And you can learn a lot from this, is The Science and Practice of Strength Training by Vladimir Zatsorsky. It's a really good book that, yeah, it really delves into a lot of the science behind it and just how to apply that science. So not only are you learning the science, but there's a very clear carryover into how to apply it. So I really appreciated that element of the book. Some really good aspects of periodization, and just different concepts of what we're trying to accomplish, and then also how to kind of go about that, which I really appreciated. The next one is Super Training by Yuri Verkoshansky. It's an older book, but this book has kind of laid the foundation for a lot of strength training, power development, and periodization concepts that have been applied for many years. On top of this, it's kind of a one of the great pieces of strength and conditioning information that's kind of been put together, and like I said, a lot of work into the modern era have been built off of the concepts laid on this book. So just something that can really contextualize strength training almost as a whole too, if you are interested, and give that a whole read through. So really great book. Might be my favorite out of the 3. The next book is called How to Be Well by Frank Lipman. This is a nutrition and wellness book that just kind of talks about some really foundational ideas and concepts related to, taking, uh, having, good nutrition, taking care of your mind and your body, and just kind of looking at that bigger picture that we've talked a lot about, not necessarily just strength training or getting, trying to find specific physiological results, but just taking care of your body and your mind and looking at things I guess I don't like using this word all the time, but in a more holistic manner. Um, the last book is interesting, and again, like all these things, they're not, they don't exist in a vacuum. They're not an absolute. They just are things that you might learn something from, take pieces from each of them, and kind of apply them into your life. So, last one's called How to Not Die by Dr. Michael Greger. So this book's really interesting. The His writing style is kind of is engaging as well. He basically, talking about, focusing on eating like a plant-based diet, not meaning like free of meat, but just talking about focusing on, foods that have great nutrients and like in them, and why they're beneficial to kind of have as part of your overall diet. And it's all backed up by scientific analysis. So this is some of those books kind of get gimmicky and very speculative, but this kind of walks you through in a manner where it's like, I recommend this, and it is because of these studies, and this is the value of it, and this is how it can kind of, contribute positively to your overall well-being. And so he kind of methodically goes through a lot of different research and the practical application of that in terms of like, eating and taking care of yourself in that manner. So again, these recommendations not the end all be all of your pursuits in terms of health and wellness, but just some good resources that I think can kind of give you that foundational knowledge, and then I really put an emphasis on having science based and an empathetic kind of perspective on these topics. So it's not about do everything you can to get as strong as you can as quickly as possible. It's about how to take care of your body, learning about the body and how it works, and breaking things down into simple terms, and then learning some of the science and the background behind what you're doing, and then also kind of understanding the application and kind of extending that out to nutrition and wellness as well in those last two books. So I really hope that those resources can be of value to some of the people that are watching this, and that it can be something that might allow you to kind of get a starting point for continuing education after going through these sessions. So uh, I hope that with that being said, that that kind of points you in the right direction, or just kind of gives you a little bit of a starting point for keeping on learning about strength and conditioning and health and wellness after taking part in these sessions. So that's the end of the education component for today. Before we get into the workout, I'd like to open up the floor to any questions before we get into our actual workout today. So give a second here if Kelsey or Chris have any questions or comments or anything that they'd like to bring up before we get into the workout. I would love to answer them. So I'll give a second there. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, Chris said no questions, and you're welcome for the recommendations. I hope that they can, benefit you in some way, shape, or form. All right. So today we're going in our training session, we're going to go through a warm up. We've got two exercises. When I go through these sessions, I demonstrate the exercise, usually once each. My recommendation is for those following along at home is to do two rounds of the warm up, and then 2 to 4 rounds of the sequences that we work through, and to always self-regulate in terms of like the repetitions and the volume in terms of the sets as well, based on your comfort level, and an absolute emphasis on movement quality throughout the movement. So do not do repetitions that you cannot do with your ideal form. It's one thing to get a little bit tired and to get out of position for your very last rep, but want you to try and move well first, and then add loading on top of that, or add intensity or volume on top of that in terms of progressing the movement, but only under the context that you're moving well to begin with. So the first two things that we're going to do is a good morning and posture press. So I'm going to use a dowel for that. If you're following along at home and don't have access to a broomstick or a dowel or some sort of short stick-like implement, you can just follow along. For the good mornings, we'll do our hands on the back of the heads. And then for the posture press, we'll just do it air style. So just follow along with me. Second exercise is a sumo floor touch and reach. Very simple. You're going to have your feet set out wide, touch the floor, reach up, put your hips through, reach up towards the ceiling. So yeah, I'm going to demonstrate both of those, and then we'll go into the training session. A second to get set up here. Let's see. There we go. Christmas tree's looking good. So we have the dowel here. Again, if you don't have a dowel, just hands on your head. We're going to put, sorry, I got to face this way. So bend the knees, and keep your chest up and push your hips back and tip over as far as you can, kind of keeping the tension on your hamstrings, not letting your back round. So here and back up. My back's nice and flat, even arched a little bit upwards. We do 5 repetitions. 3, 4, taking your time on the way down, no rush. Really stretching, feeling in your hamstrings and hinging at the hips. Next thing that we're going to do is a posture press. So again, if you don't have a dowel with you, just use your hands and kind of follow this pattern. Chin up, push up towards the ceiling. And now we're going to lower, kind of pulling our elbows back, keeping our chest up and our chin up. So you don't want to tuck your chin here. Really, really important. Nice and slow down, about 4 or 5 seconds. Press back up, normal speed. 4 or 5 seconds on the way down. So 1, chin up, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back up, we're going to do 5 reps of this. Chin up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back up. So do 2 more. 3, 4, 5. And last one. 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. So then take a second here. I'm going to take a wide stance. I'm going to tilt this down so you can see my feet. So we're going to take a wide stance here. And basically, keeping the legs almost straight. You can have a little bend in your knee. You just want to make sure that you feel your hamstrings being engaged when you reach down. So tiny little bend in the knee, you're going to reach down, push your hips back, keep your chest up, push your hips through and reach up to the ceiling. Down, and reach up to the ceiling. Really try and hinge your hips. Try not to lean around your back to reach the floor if you can. Hips all the way through at the top. We're going to do 10 of these. I think I'm at 5, 6, 7, and really make sure you're extending your elbows all the way at the top, kind of really reaching up as high as you possibly can. 9, 10. Awesome. Take a second here. So yeah, that I keep talking about this as we go through. I kind of try to take the second to explain the rationale behind the structure of the workout, so that kind of have that context moving forward. So the good morning and the posture press, we're working on, it's the postural element of, making sure that you're hinging your hips properly, maintaining a good back management position, something very important throughout any lifting. And then the posture press, really great for warming up your thoracic region, your upper back, your scapula, making sure that that's all moving well in that vertical plane. So kind of just getting that whole posterior chain, which is basically your hamstrings, your glutes, your low back, then your upper back as well, up into your trapezius, all warmed up. So basically the whole backside of the body, kind of getting it ready for movement. Sumo floor touch, again, is kind of warming up getting the hamstrings warm. You're pushing your hips through, so you're getting some, waking up the hip flexors a little bit as well. And then the reach, starting to kind of warm up the shoulders and the upper body a little bit for some pressing movements. Also the posture press as well, obviously warming up the shoulders too. So again, we try and make sure that the warm-up is applicable to the training session. So the first training sequence that we're going to do today is called, the first exercise is Z press. So we're going to do a press with the bag. We're going to be holding our backpack with our feet out in front of us, sitting on the ground and pressing overhead. And then we're going to get up and we're going to row the bag. So bag row, really whole posterior chain. You got your hamstrings engaged to be, you're hinging the hips, and then you're rowing using the muscles in your upper back and your biceps. So again, warmed up that posterior chain in the warm up. Same thing with the Z press. We got the shoulders ready for that overhead pressing. So kind of checking the boxes of whatever's in the first part of our training sequence, making sure that those muscles have, moved in an easy manner that's kind of preparing the muscles and the joints for some higher intensity movement in our training session. So with that being said, I'm going to go and I'll demonstrate 8 reps of the Z press and then 8 reps of the bag row. Again, for people following at home, I would advise you to do 2 or 3 rounds of these sequences, 4 if you're really feeling up to it. But again, always self-regulate the intensity in terms of, making sure you're using that movement quality. So. Go. So take our bag, or sit down on the ground with our feet out in front of us and try and ideally not bend your knees too much. So feet kind of straight out in front of us, toes pointed up towards the ceiling. Grab onto your bag. Then you're going to start here. It's also good to grab, if you're using a backpack, to grab all this stuff so it's not dangling everywhere. That's kind of besides the point. Press up over your head. Nice and strong walkout with the elbows. Back down here. Press up. Really try and use your abdominals to keep yourself vertical so you're not leaning back a lot to press. You really want to try and stay as upright as possible. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Same thing with the bag row. I'm going to demonstrate from the side, and I'll show you that good back management position. So starting with your knees bent, you're going to push the hips back like you're trying to close the door with your backside. Let your arms hang long. Get down so that you're rowing almost vertically. Pull it back up to the chest. Hold. 1, 2. Back down. 1, 2. Back down. So the upper body doesn't move. Everything stays still except for your arms. Nice, good, strong contraction at the top, and then back down. Okay, so that's our first training sequence for today. And I'll take a second here before we move into the second one. So Z press, really great upper body vertical pushing movement. It really challenges you to keep your torso upright. Obviously, if you don't, you're going to lean back way too much. You'll lose your balance. So, there's a really great stability element to make sure that your abdominals and your core muscles are keeping yourself upright, which is more difficult oftentimes than it looks. So really great exercise when you're limited for means for intensity, meaning like you don't have really heavy weights that can challenge you that way. This is a really great way to challenge your posture, and be able to have an effective workout with less resistance. So same thing with the bag row. It's more about hinging your hips and maintaining that really strong back position than it is necessarily like how much weight you're rowing or anything like that. It's just you're really putting time and effort into maintaining a good posture there. So you get that really good hip hinge. You want your torso ideally to get almost parallel to the ground while still having good back management, and then you just row and you hold that position. So you're in an isometric hip hinge position where you're staying still, and then you're just rowing the bag up towards your chest and trying to hold it there. So you're spending a lot of time in a really healthy hip hinge position the whole time you're doing your set. So really teaching the hinge really well, and some really good posterior chain mechanics. So yeah, two really great exercises. I've used them a lot through these sessions, and again, the warm up flows into those exercises, meaning you're making sure that you're prepared for those movements. Second sequence we're going to do today, really cool exercise. So it's easy to just come and program push-ups and then say, okay, if you can't do push-ups, do them on your knees. I want to take the chance today to show kind of a middle ground progression, because I noticed that a lot of times people doing push-ups from their knees, it's even if they can't even do one full push-up yet, they can do a lot from their knees. So there's like this kind of middle ground of how do you progress from those push-ups on your knees to doing full push-ups. Well, I saw this really great post, and it's one knee push-ups. So you do a push-up, you only go on one knee. So but you do we'll do 5 reps on one knee and 5 reps on the other. And regardless of if you can do regular push-ups or not, I suggest that you give this a shot just to kind of see. It's an interesting little movement, and maybe you can use it to help some of your some people get better at push-ups if time goes on, and that kind of situation comes up for you. So one knee push-ups, really great. Kind of middle ground exercise between those classic knee like push-ups from your knees to transitioning through to those full plank position push-ups. The next thing that we're going to do with that is a bird dog hold. So great posterior chain, great core stability exercise, working in that contralateral movement pattern too, where you're moving one arm and the opposite leg. There's a lot of really great things from that exercise. So we're going to do 3-second isometric contractions in the full extension of the position, and we're going to do 5 of those per side. So I'm going to demonstrate 5 on each side of the knee push-ups, and then I'm going to demonstrate 5 per side of the bird dog with a 3-second isometric contraction for this sequence. So I'll go through now, demonstrate that. Here. So again, we're going to start up. Sorry. Go down on your knees like you would go to be doing a regular knee push-up. Get your hands set up so they're underneath your shoulders. And then you're going to take one knee off the ground and do your push. All right, switch sides and do the same thing on the side. Okay, so once you're done that, take a second, and then we're going to transition into the bird dogs. Let's move this way a little bit. Okay, so you reach your left hand and your right leg and extend them fully at the same time, like this. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, trying to hold your torso like a tabletop, so you don't want to get way moving around like this. Nice and still. Only thing moving is those 2 limbs. 1, 2, 3. Back down at the same time. 1, 2, 3. Back down at the same time. 1, 2, 3. Back down at the same time. 2, 3. Really reach as far as you can. Get as much extension as you can, and a nice strong hold. There. So that's our second sequence of the day. Again, just really, we got another pushing exercise. This time we're going through the horizontal plane. So the Z press, you're pushing, vertically. The bag row, you're actually in the horizontal plane. You're pulling vertically. And then the knee push-ups, now we're working in the horizontal plane, and the bird dogs, it's just the same kind of thing. So just kind of varying those joint angles that we're working in, introducing some core stability elements and finding ways, again, to challenge your body without, having access to tons of loading, which tends to be the issue when you're training from home. So I'm going to try to keep that in mind. Our third sequence of the day, we're going to do 3 exercises this time. It's going to be a more unilateral stability challenge. So we're going to do single leg Romanian deadlifts using our bag. We're going to do just 4 repetitions per side. Then we're going to do a reverse plank hold. So reverse plank is kind of an interesting movement because it challenges your posterior chain to kind of hold you in the plank position, as opposed to more of your abdominals and the more abdominal oriented traditional plank. So the muscles of your upper back and then your hips are kind of in charge of keeping everything off the ground as opposed to the other way around. I find it to be a little bit harder. And then, yeah, single leg Romanian deadlifts, and then plank pull throughs. So you're gonna take a water bottle or just any sort of small implement, and you're gonna pull it from side to side. You know, trying to keep your core as stable as possible throughout. So reverse plank hold, we're gonna do 20-second demonstration. Single leg Romanian deadlifts, 4 per side. And then the plank pull through, we'll do 5 per side. That'll be our third and final sequence of the day. Then we'll work through a cool down now we've been kind of doing for the last few sessions. So take a second here, and then we will get into that third sequence. Okay. Again, just kind of good, a good note to just be be crafty with what you're using. I don't have my usual water bottle with me right now, so I'm just using a little bit of paint to do the pull through. It's not about the weight; it's just about having that implement to move well through these positions. So again, we're going to start off with the reverse plank. I have that there for my pull through. So start off down on the ground, get your feet set up, and you're going to push yourself up with your hands, keeping your elbows nice and straight. And we're going to hold our bodies in a straight line for about 20 seconds. Here, hold 20 seconds. Really trying to push the hips up the whole time, squeezing those muscles in the upper back. Stay nice and still. Okay. Now, we're going to go into single leg Romanian deadlifts. So these can be pretty challenging. I recommend is finding a focal point, somewhere to look at that's kind of like eye level that you can kind of look at the whole time or just slightly below it. And using your back leg as kind of like a stabilizing device. So you really want to push your heel back so you can hinge well, but it also gives you balance. So really try and drive your leg back. It'll make things a lot easier for you. So start off with the knees bent. I'll unload the one leg. Now we're just going to push our leg back and tip over, keeping our chest up. Come back up. Do 4 on each side. So kind of pushing that leg back towards the wall. And look straight ahead the whole time. Good, and you're always going to have a side that's a little bit more challenging than the other. Mine is my right side. So no big deal, just take your time. And if a rep really gets away from you, there's no harm in redoing it. Or resting until your next set and trying again. All right. Last thing we're going to do is a plank pull through. So you have, well, you could be your water bottle or just anything that kind of challenges you to go from one side to the other. If you have it here, you're going to go into your push-up position and you're going to reach across. So your hand that's away from it, you're going to grab it, place it on this side, put your hand back down and do the other thing, the other side. Going back and forth, we'll do 5 on each side. So here, we're in a push-up position. Tilt this down so you can see a bit better. You're here in a push-up position. Now I'm going to reach across, try and keep everything still, replace it. Same thing. 2, 2, 3, 3, 4. You really want to try and keep your hips from shaking around too much. They're going to move a bit, but try and keep them as still as you can. There. All right, so yeah, so those are the training sequences for today. Again, working through some good upper body pushing exercises, and then incorporating a lot of posterior chain work today, and then doing some different contralateral core exercises, and then finishing off with some unilateral stability stuff, the single leg Romanian deadlifts, and then the plank pull through, obviously challenging that one hand that's on the ground while the other one's being used to move your water bottle or whatever you're using around. So yeah, kind of get a good full body session in. When you're doing at-home workouts where you don't have a whole lot of loading and a whole lot of ability to kind of regulate that intensity, it's great to train as much of the body as you can in a session, so that if you're not going to have the same type of fatigue and tax, like you're not going to feel as taxed from these sessions if you're really or in those body parts if you're really doing some high intensity movements. So we're working on the movement quality and just kind of working well through these positions. It's good to kind of address the entire body or most of it at a time, just because of that the lack of that really high intensity factor. So that would be my advice. If you're training from home, most workouts would be most productive to be a full body workout. Not to say that there's no room for anything else, but I would do most of mine. And when I was training from home, when everything was on lockdown, I did full body workouts. Was my preference. So today for our cool down, we're going to do the knee to chest pose, classic, and then we're going to we're going to go from the knee to chest pose, and then we're going to do the pigeon pose. Then we're going to go into child's pose. So we'll hold knee to chest, 20 seconds per side. Pigeon pose, same thing. We'll go through a progression. I'll show you. We'll go from our elbows to our hands to our extended hands. Really good way to kind of progress that stretch. If you usually just kind of sit on your elbows, show you a nice little way to kind of add some difficulty to that. And then I love always finishing off the session in child's pose. Good and relaxing, kind of take some pressure off of the lumbar spine, stretch out that thoracic that tends to tighten up when you're sitting around a lot during the day. So just some really good stuff just to kind of ease, lower your heart rate, bring it back down, and to stretch out some of those key areas, and take some tension out of those key areas that tend to tighten up as we go through our day. So go through knee to chest, pigeon pose, and child's pose, and then I'll open up the floor for a few questions, and we'll go from there. So here we go. And here, so again, knee to chest, laying flat, pulling this knee up, lengthening that other leg, keeping your head flat, and just keep this, a good tip too, to keep this toe pointed up. So you engage it, kind of try and push this hip away from this one. Create as much space as you can there. Just take the tension off. And then breathe well. So big inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And then just try on those exhales to sink further into the position. I'll switch sides. So nice and slow on the way down. Just flop your leg back down and take your time to transition well. Really pulling that knee up towards the chest, lengthening that other leg. Get into kind of your first position, and then breathe. And on that exhale, try and pull yourself into a deeper position. So here. And it's nice too, with this stretch, you have your hands that can kind of help you along too. All right, again, down slowly, sit up. We're gonna go into the pigeon pose. I think I demonstrated from this way. So you wanna have your shin kind of as close to parallel as possible. I know for me, can't quite get there, but try and keep it nice and straight. And you're gonna feel a nice strong stretch through your piriformis here and into your glutes. So that leg parallel, And you want to keep it's really important to keep your hips parallel with it. So then you drop your hip down, extend your leg back. So now we're kind of in the classic pigeon pose. You want to make this a little bit more engaging. Reach your hands out in front of you. Kind of try and drop your hip down a little bit more. And then again, we'll breathe into it. So we'll try and drop our head down towards the ground. So. And we'll take our time coming out of it. So back to the elbows first. And push that back leg forward and then slide out of it. So you don't want to just kind of really quickly come out of that pose. Take your time to make sure we're not, putting kind of a really quick movement, taking that stress off of the piriformis and the glutes being stretched. Kind of make sure you take that time, ease out of it. The last thing you want to do is hurt yourself or move something the wrong way when you're trying to do the opposite. So just be really nice and gentle to yourself as you go through these. And same thing, shin as straight as you can, down onto your elbows, and now some good breath work, and then progress down into that extended arm position. So here, kind of get comfortable, reach out, and now try and breathe and drop your head down as much as you can. Try and soften that glute on this side and just kind of let it sink down towards the ground. Again, back to the elbows, that back foot forward, and then ease out of the position. So come up here, I'll drop our hips down, sitting our butt on top of our legs, or reach out in front of us and get into that child's pose. Again, really, really focus on breathing and kind of lengthening your spine as you're going through this. With 20 seconds in here, and then that'll wrap up the session for today. So reach out, nice and long, push the hips back, and now focus on your breath and lengthening your spine. So dropping the head down. All right, again, just kind of gently ease out of the stretch. Come back up. There we are. So again, with those stretching, really focusing on kind of, maintaining good positions. Breathing really well is huge for stretching. Like your exhale is such a powerful tool for lengthening those stretches and moving your body through ranges of motion that it's comfortable, and it just needs some kind of encouragement, I guess you could say, to get there. And then child's pose at the end, really good. Just again, focusing on that breathing and lengthening the spine, kind of taking out some of that tension that gets built up in your thoracic from being hunched over often, and in that lumbar just from your day-to-day, the stresses of your day-to-day activity. So really like that cool down sequence kind of, and also, sorry, the piriformis is kind of one of those muscles that stiffens up a lot from sitting. So taking the time in that pigeon pose to stretch that out is really great. So that's all for the session for today. Take a second to open up the floor to anyone for some questions or any comments they want to make before we wrap this up. But for me, that's the end of Finding Fitness episode or session 9. So again, thanks so much for coming out and watching this. If you're watching the recording, I really appreciate everyone taking part, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to do this for everyone. So, and any questions or comments, and we'll wrap up for today. Chris, that's great. Chris said that he loved this and he wants to incorporate some of these exercises into his workouts. So that's awesome. I'm glad to help Chris, and I'm always open to be reached by email or anything if you have any more questions or would like to follow up on this. So my email is loganbaker.sc, as in strength and conditioning, at gmail.com. Always more than willing to talk about this stuff and try and find ways to add any more value to your health and wellness and well-being and strength and conditioning. So yeah, feel free to contact me. And yeah, thanks again, everyone, for coming out to Finding Fitness Foundations of Strength and Conditioning. Appreciate you being here, and have a great day. Thank you. Bye bye.